the United States of soccer, closing out 2020, getting ready for 2021. Lots of positive things ahead in American soccer. I'm convinced of it. One reason I believe that is the work of Richie Graham, who joins us now on the phone line. He's an owner with the Philadelphia Union, also the man behind Four Soccer Ventures, who has just announced the acquisition of Alianza de Futbol and Hugo TV. Richie, how are you?
Good, Jason. How you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. A little bit early, and I imagine it's going to be a busy and interesting year for you. And let's start with Alianza de Futbol and what it means for SFV to acquire a property that really does have a strong track record in finding young talent, especially in the Hispanic community in the United States.
Yeah, no, we're super excited about it. It's an opportunity for us to help make American soccer more inclusive. You know, as you know, Alianza has been the premier Hispanic soccer program since 2003, and many kids and adults participating on an annual basis. They identified a lot of great players, and our goal long term is to help build on that historical success and help bring the game to more communities, spread the love of the game so that more kids can participate and more players can stay in the sport longer. And hopefully, we can identify some players that want to go to MLS and ultimately the U.S. national team. And we're super excited about it.
Richie, I talk all the time about how American soccer is sort of cursed in a way by its strength. And one of the strengths of the game in the United States is the diversity of it, but also means it's sometimes tough to pull communities together and get everybody working on the same page. Does this work towards that, like figuring out a way to make sure that American soccer is more together than we've been in the past?
Yeah, I think so. I agree with you and I think one of the things that we feel at Four Soccer Ventures is that the diversity of the game and the diversity of sort of our culture in the U.S. are things that we should celebrate. And there are a lot of kids that don't necessarily have the means to participate in your typical travel soccer, quote unquote, type of program. And so properties like Alianza that are reaching into communities and meeting those communities at their place versus trying to pull kids into outside of their communities to participate in the game. This is something we need to do. We feel we need to do it in a much bigger way because there are many pockets of talent across the U.S. And I think all of us that are involved in the game, we want to make it more accessible to all players. So I think we have to, find creative ways to sort of go into these communities and work with the stakeholders there to provide kids an opportunity.
Now, Reggie, I don't think there's anything better for getting kids to stick with the game and be committed to it than showing them a path and letting them dream about something. And, for me as a kid, it was I wanted to be the baseball players I saw on television. I didn't have soccer heroes. Now we have them, and they're locally grown. And you're obviously doing that with the Union and with what's coming out of YSC. How much of a role does that play? Just having players, go pro out of an academy, and maybe even, we can talk about Mark McKenzie and Brendan Aronson and players making moves to bigger and better things in their careers.
Yeah, no, I think that is a really important part. If kids fall in love with the heroes of the sport, they fall in love with the game. If they fall in love with the game, they fuel their own growth, and they enjoy participating in training and playing. And so that sort of love of the hero, love of the game is the first and most important step. And, now with MLS, we have a really, it's been a tough year, obviously, for all professional sports. But if you kind of look back, MLS is a very strong league and it's growing, and this is now providing a home for those heroes. And some of those heroes are local homegrown talents. So that's really important for young kids that are growing up in these cities and MLS cities, and they're seeing these, guys that are playing that come from their hometown. I think it's a massive massive piece of the game that definitely connects the kids in a deeper way. So I think it's really, really important. And of course, it's, exists in other parts of the world, and it has for many, many years. But we're beginning to build that now with a healthy, strong MLS league. And, for some of those kids, they can showcase in MLS and maybe make a leap to Europe. I think that's also a very good thing for the league, and obviously a very good thing for American soccer. I think, the way people perceive American soccer today is much different than it was even 5 years ago. And I think MLS is a big, big part of that. The talent that's coming through has a big, big part to play in that. But it's really exciting time to be involved in soccer for all of us, at every level.
Yeah. Talking to Richie Graham, part of the ownership group of the Philadelphia Union, the man behind For Soccer Ventures, which has just acquired Alianza de Futbol, and that inclusion and bringing people into the big tent and figuring out who the talented players are and giving them a pathway. That's all working towards the goal of the United States maybe winning a World Cup one day. Richie, I know you're a believer. I want to believe too. Are we headed in the right direction?
Yeah, well, of course, we've got that done on the women's side, and they've figured that out. And that side of the game, it's about maintaining that sort of global lead. And on the men's side, of course, it's about how do we position ourselves and what can we do to create environments so that we can, really become one of the powerhouses of the global game. And that's, obviously something that we think a lot about at For Soccer Ventures, and are, really interested in investing in properties and partnering with organizations that have the goal of pushing the game forward at all levels, whether that's, player development, like we're talking about, or just, sort of the storytelling and the excitement that goes around the games and the cool things that are happening with the fan bases in these different cities, MLS cities. We want to point and shine a light on that and celebrate it.
Richie, do you think that the balance for MLS is kind of sorting itself out? I mean, you've got a club there in Philadelphia that won a supporter shield, was in contention for an MLS Cup, obviously had talented players coming through the academy, and now, because it's the right thing to do, but also business-wise it makes sense, a couple of those key contributors are moving on. How does the union stay competitive? Are we doing enough? Is the academy going to pump out kids at a fast enough rate? Are you going to be able to spend the money to be competitive? All these things are part of that mix for MLS clubs in a modern world.
Yeah. I mean, I think in the case of the Philadelphia Union, we have three clear pillars for how we want to compete. And one of those is that we want to be a player development club. And the second pillar is that we want to be a methodology-based club, meaning that the kids that enter our academy are trained in a way of playing, and that's the same as the first team all the way through, every step of the way. The third piece is we want to be innovative, and we want to look where we can pick up, marginal gains. So we are highly focused on that model. So, as a result of that, as a consequence of that, we are going to produce players. They are going to showcase. So we are going to transact on them and sell them. And we're going to have, folks that are kids that follow in their footsteps. And if you look at, we're not the only club in the world that is pursuing this type of model. But if you look at successful build clubs, they have the faith in their manufacturing process to know that the talent is there and that they're going to be able to fill those shoes, not necessarily in the exact same positions and with the exact same qualities. But I can tell you, we're really, really bullish on some of the talent we have coming through our academy, and really, really excited about the future.
Do you think, Richie, that we're at a point? I mean, I just got done talking about Weston McKennie a little bit and what he's doing at Juventus, I talked about how, as American soccer fans, we are still learning, to believe in our talent, to believe that American players can compete at the highest levels of the game. Do you see something that has fundamentally changed in the way that young players sort of learn the game now, or is this simply the rest of the world waking up to what we already had?
No, I think that we are seeing the fruits of a lot of labor from a lot of different levels. At the grassroots level, the quality of the coaching, the environments is getting better and better every year. The developmental academy has had an impact on soccer in the United States, and you're seeing, a lot of these kids that are players that are having success now has come through the developmental academy system. The idea of having the best play and train against the best was a key part of that sort of initiative. And so I think that we always had, some great players that were world class. You look at Claudio Reyna, for example. This is a guy that was able to compete. But what you're seeing now is that I believe we're getting more and more, and the standard of our average player is going up and up at every single level. Go watch a little U6 game, and you're going to be blown away by wow, that 5-year-old just did that. And now you go look at the pro level, and the standard of the average is getting better and better. So I think what's interesting is that the other parts of the world are starting to notice this, and every time a Weston has a great result, or the Pulisic or any of these players or Gio overseas, that helps to solidify in the rest of the world's mind that there's talent here, and it's getting better and better. So I think it's a great moment, and a lot of these guys are really performing at a very, very high level, and it's great to see.
Now, I think one of the things for Soccer Ventures, Richie, that you guys are trying to accomplish is obviously growing the game beyond the sort of traditional communities that already exist. And you mentioned storytelling. What's the sort of the plan for 2021? And, we're ramping up. This is all kind of aiming at a World Cup coming back to the United States in just over 5 years. What is the storytelling plan to get the rest of the country to sort of wake up to what's happening in American soccer?
Well, there's, some of the properties like Alianza are focused on a demographic that are really interested to brands, and they want to reach out to that community. And so, when you start to mix the ability to sort of have a property that's great for a community, and then also it's an opportunity for brands to sort of connect with that community. That's where you start to begin to find opportunities to develop some stories that shine a light on what's happening and help make that connection more authentic and really engage brands with the soccer consumer. And that's important because, the business of soccer needs to work for the sport to develop. So, that's kind of, we're looking at that crossroad between, properties and communities and sort of cultures, and then with brands and organizations that want to connect with them. And we're trying to connect those pieces and push them along. So they're going to be all different types of projects that could come out of that. But that's just an example, sort of at a macro level, how we look at it.
Reggie, I'll finish with this. I mean, obviously, we're looking towards 2021, but we're all hopeful and trying to be positive about the future for our game, but obviously our country and the world. The pandemic impact, how has it changed the plans or our ability to make progress here going into the new year, whether it be in terms of developing young players and the injury caused by the pandemic to those plans, or just in terms of growing the game in the United States? How much damage do you think has been done?
Well, I mean, I think it's a significant impact that is going to have a ripple effect. And I think people need to understand that, that's just a reality. And it's not just the soccer industry, it's many industries. The economic impact is massive, and it's going to require some different types of thinking going forward to sort of stabilize and recover from that. I think from a developmental standpoint, I do feel sorry for some of the kids that are in these academy programs right now, because in effect, they've lost, I don't want to say a full year, but they've lost time because you can't have the sort of same training environment. In Philadelphia Union, we had a lot of kids moving up and down through the age groups so they can feel the speed of the older players' game and then come back to their age group. And obviously with the pandemic, we had to go into cohorts, and lock out teams and groups into bubbles. And then you didn't have as many games, and then we had to shut down training. And, so that time is time you can't get back. And so I do feel sorry for some of the young guys that are going through the academy systems now, because, it will have an impact. But I'm hopeful, and I think we all are hopeful, that 21 is going to be, a step in a positive direction and get, life back to normal, and you can start to get those training hours, and you can get that environment that's going to be conducive for development. You get fans back in those stadiums, and you start to drive the engine to make, MLS work. It's not going to be like flick the switch, okay, everything's recovered and here we go. People are going to need to understand that this is a significant impact economically to the league and to all of us. And so, we have to work together to sort of push through these tough times and get things stabilized again. So that's kind of how I see it.
Obviously, lots of work to be done. I think there's reason for optimism, but it's going to be hard. And hopefully 2021 arrives with everyone getting together, a lot of resolve as we move into the new year. Richie Graham, again, ownership of the Philadelphia Union, part of the Four Soccer Ventures, making things happen in American soccer. Richie, thank you very much for the time. Happy New Year, and the best to you and yours.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
It goes Richie Graham on the program. Interesting guy with a lot of optimism about the future of American soccer, and he's putting his money down where it counts to make it happen, whether it be developing players for the Philadelphia Union or investing in the game of the United States. That includes Alianza de Futbol, and I'll tell you, FSV has got a lot of stuff in the works. Should make 2021 a very interesting year. We're going to come back on the United States of Soccer, the final segment of 2020. We're going to wrap this thing up. We're going to hand out a few more.